Hi, this is Damien and this is my MBA journey at the Melbourne Business School. So, I'm going to do a bit of a recap of what I've done for today and where I'm up to with the MBA at this point in time. It's actually right now, it's basically 2 a.m. in the morning of the 12th of September. I'll get to the reason why I'm up so late. So, okay, how did I start? So, just as a recap, from the other night, I went to try and log into Canvas after receiving an email from the Melbourne Business School to say to log into Canvas to access my reading resources. After I received a phone call and then the actual email with the login details, I went to try and log in, and for whatever reason it wasn't accepting my login details, so I actually had to send off an email last night to IT or program services to have them sort out what was going on with me not being able to log into Canvas. That's put me behind now because today's, well, not today, but yesterday, because it's 2 a.m. in the morning, was Wednesday, the 11th of September. And I start the course on Friday, first thing, for leadership. So, how did I start this morning? I went to the gym this morning at again 6:30. Went down. Was listening to the audio book by Gary Vaynerchuk, Crushing It or Crush It. He was basically talking about in that around doing the work, building a brand and reputation, and doing that for not looking at necessarily a monetary gain, but doing that firstly for the purposes of the audience. There was also a section where he talks about having hunger is the difference for success, and you've got to be driven to want to have that. Talking about working the 14, 16-hour days and having 6 to 8 hours sleep, and you've got to have that hunger and drive to do that day in, day out. What I actually I listened to the audio book, and then I went done my workout. So 30 minutes on the treadmill doing cardio, and then 30 minutes of resistance training, so sit-ups, push-ups. Then I came up, had a shower and had breakfast, and then went back to my second day of work today. And as part of that, I continued to do the business assessment tool, continue to put that together. I also, during my lunch break, was jumped onto ABC News, and I actually started to read an article. And the article was by Marnie Vinall, and the title of the article was "Privilege is the hidden ingredient for success for success." I'll start that again. Privilege is the hidden ingredient for success that we don't talk about enough. So what Marnie goes into in that article is that the hidden and factors of success that aren't talked about is around privilege. So, and she goes on to talk about diversity, success, and power. Power is an interesting term or word there that's used, given some conversations I've had recently. So one example she's given in the article was around there's more CEOs called Andrew, or more directors, people in position or influence in the ASX 200 with the first name Andrew than there are actually women in positions in those positions in those ASX 200 listed companies. So yes, so and sort of the factor of power, where I said is interesting, because I actually had an interesting discussion that was around when you go into a negotiation and you're sitting in the negotiation as a small business with a corporate, and there's a question around who has the power in that negotiation, given the circumstances of where each person is sitting on the table, and what influence they have around being able to negotiate. Is that in terms of not just equality, but in equity in that regard. So that was an interesting reason I found in this article, is around who has the power, and where this comes into play, and where does that success derive from, based around given diversities and that. So and so where I'm leading with this is that with Indigenous businesses, yes, but they do get a benefit to a degree by able to getting a foot in the door to some corporations. But just because you get the foot in the door doesn't guarantee them a contract. And then who is in the position of power in a business negotiation between a small Indigenous business and a multinational company? So even if that business does get a foot in the door, as being an Indigenous business, they might get it to be able to talk to somebody. Just because they get that doesn't mean they are going to get any great benefit from it. When they enter into negotiations, they will typically be the small business in a room where they're talking or negotiating with the corporate, who wields a lot of power in the negotiation as the buyer, and their abilities, and being able to lay down the terms and conditions of that relationship of buying. So what Marnie also goes into her article is she talks about Gary Vaynerchuk talking about the hunger is the difference for success. Gary's talking about the hunger for the drive of being an entrepreneur, whereas actually Marnie says, well, let's look at that in a different light. The word hunger, for the literal fact is that if you don't have the opportunity of education, you don't have the family support around you, and to get education, role models, mentors for the education or employment, or for business owners, that somebody in a privileged position would potentially get, then you're already at a disadvantage, and this is going to impact your success. As she said, it's one thing to say and Gary Vaynerchuk said that if you're not happy with your job, then leave it and go and find something that's better and what you're wanting to do, even if that requires taking a step backwards. As Marnie indicates, sometimes that's not an option. If you were to put food on the table for your family, then you put up with what you've got to put up with to do that. As far as the work that you're doing, being able to just say I quit and walk out of the job is not necessarily an option that is a viable or feasible option in that circumstance. So they have to put up with what they have, those conditions, and grin and bear it, so to speak, because at the end of the day they have to put food on the table for their family. So it's an interesting perspective or take that Marnie took in her article. I'm also, after I had lunch, there was actually, I went into a meeting with a business, an Indigenous business. It was a great meeting. It actually went from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and was never intended to be that long a meeting. It was just going to be a catch-up type meeting, but the meeting ended up in some results that were really great for the business. We talked about around probably the key areas. If we were to give a generalised view, we looked at what they're wanting to achieve as business owners, and we looked at what their sales and pricing was, and we looked at also what their marketing was. In terms of and what they can do around that. So that were probably the two key areas. There were other things that feed off of that, including around their bookkeeping, strategy, implementation of a business plan, and generally their overall financial well-being as well, in where they're going and what and given where they are in life as far as their age, when they've got time to retire, how much time they're spending in their business, and how much time they may want to come back and to be well in terms of not just financial, but also living their life, given where they are in their in life at this point in time. And typical of most Indigenous businesses, one of the first things when we asked about why they were doing this wasn't necessarily and where they wanted to take the business. The first thing they were talking about was wanting to create employment for other young, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, and training them up to do this work. So again, that's a common trait that we hear with businesses. They think about the community before they necessarily think about themselves or their the family as far as or the business profitability. So that was interesting. I finished that meeting at 7 o'clock. I received an email this afternoon from the Melbourne Business School, and I quickly checked it because they said that they'd sorted out the login details with the Canvas. So I quickly checked on my smartphone the link and logged in to make sure I could actually do that during business hours to make sure there wasn't any problems. So the first thing I did was when I got home, had some dinner, and I probably got home around 7:30. Had dinner, and put on a load of washing, which I need to put in the dryer. And then after dinner at about 8 o'clock, I started looking at what was on the canvas and going through that. So I had to go through. As soon as I logged on, there's all these documents. There's three documents I had to sign around codes of conduct, OH&S, student card. So I went through and sorted those out. There was some questionnaires on OH&S for induction around that. There was then I had to get into there's the pre-course stuff around algebra and algebra and mathematics. I'll just have a quick look to see whether I can see what the courses were. Algebra and mathematics. So they're part-time accelerator around algebra. So I had to go and look at those, and to be honest, I haven't got through and done that because I just don't have time, because I have to actually get into the readings, do all the course readings for leadership, and I've got tonight to do that, which is why I'm up until 2 a.m. in the morning, getting a start on those, and then I've got that tomorrow night to do before I go to which is Thursday. Tonight, this morning is Thursday. So I'll get home from work and do those readings to try and get up to speed for the course readings for leadership before I go to the course on Friday morning. So this is not where I wanted to be honest. I thought I was doing the right thing as far as putting things in place and I don't know whether it's I don't know where the fault lies. The first one, I look at myself first of all before I start blaming anyone else. But it seems that I know there was delays on my part around one. I did get the application on time for it. There was delays on my side for the referees getting their references in. But there was also a situation where I feel that with Melbourne Business School, I had to follow them up to get things sorted out. Even though they asked me, I hadn't received it, and I was receiving it later on. So these things are learning curves. So as I said, this is not where I wanted to be as far as this course. So I really need to focus in. I had something on this afternoon or this evening that I said I was going to, and I just cancelled because this was more important. So I have to knuckle down now and get this all sorted out and really get into the coursework. I don't know how I'm going to get the other stuff done because they actually want that pre-course work for algebra and I think Excel or mathematics done before the course actually starts, which is on the Friday. I'm just not going to have time to get to it. The thing that I need to focus on is getting the coursework done as for leadership, getting the readings done. Because if I don't, going through the information that they provided as far as Canvas is, if I don't get it done, then I'm going to let not only myself down but my team down because there's group assignments involved for this. So it's a failing if I don't even get that done, not for myself but also my team. And if I don't get that done on time before the course, then the likelihood is that I won't succeed and I'll just drop out. So not a positive position that I expected to be in. But irrespective, I've started it and I'll do what I can. And this is, again, why I'm up at 2 a.m. in the morning to do this. So I'm going to sign off. You can follow me on YouTube on Damien Foley, or you can follow also on my website at www.damienfoley.com/MBA. And I will get back to you tomorrow as far as how I'm going with that, getting these readings done for the coursework for leadership, which is tomorrow morning first thing. Okay, guys, bye.